Welcome back to my belated annual Oscar series where I talk about all the Oscar categories except for the short film ones. I rank all the nominees per category according to who I think deserves to win the Oscar. Then I make a prediction for who I think will win that Oscar. But of course right now I'm going to be talking about the categories from last year since I didn't get to do them then. To continue where I left off with the major categories, we finally have our first acting category. So let's talk about Best Supporting Actress. And the nominees are Jennifer Jason Leigh as Daisy Domergue in The Hateful Eight, Rooney Mara as Therese Belivet in Carol, Rachel McAdams as Sasha Pfeiffer in Spotlight, Alicia Vikander as Gerda Wegener in The Danish Girl, and Kate Winslet as Joanna Hoffman in Steve Jobs. Now this would be a totally great list for Best Supporting Actress if two of these nominees were supporting actresses, because I'm sorry, but there was category fraud again this year, well last year. Rooney Mara and Alicia Vikander should not have been on this list for the roles they were nominated in. Because if you watch Carol, if you watch The Danish Girl, you cannot tell me that these actresses had supporting roles in those movies. And in fact, Carol is pretty much told from Rooney Mara's character's point of view. And Alicia Vikander's character in The Danish Girl has just as much screen time, I think, as Eddie Redmayne's character. So I hate that the Academy does this whole category fraud thing, because it's obviously done to give them more of a chance to win, and it's also done because of, like, you know, award politics or whatever. But I have to judge this category based on the nominees given, so that's what I'm gonna do. So in terms of who I think should have won the Oscar, at 5th place I'm going to put Rachel McAdams. Now don't get me wrong, I think Rachel McAdams is great in Spotlight. In fact, the entire cast of Spotlight is amazing, I think, and Rachel McAdams' performance really does shine, but it shines more as part of the ensemble. Individually, she is still really strong, because you can definitely tell her apart from the rest of the cast, not just because she's a woman, but because she's the most empathetic. She's the one who really gets close to the victims and, like, helps them out. And for that, like, she's definitely worth commendation. It's just that, you know, she's more a part of the ensemble. So as, you know, with this category, she doesn't really fit that well, in my opinion. At 4th place, I'm going to put Kate Winslet. Now, at first glance, Kate Winslet's role in Steve Jobs just looks like she's exasperated at Steve Jobs the entire time, but there really is something more going on beneath the surface. You know, there's a delicate balance of professional and personal feelings that she has towards Steve Jobs. And it really looks like she's trying to hold back a lot, because, you know, she's one of the only people keeping this ship afloat while Steve Jobs himself is kind of ruining things. But it is just very impressive that, you know, with all the energy that Michael Fassbender as Steve Jobs is giving off in this film, that Kate Winslet is able to keep up, especially with all of the quick-fire Aaron Sorkin dialogue. She is great in this movie. Now, at 3rd place, I'm going to put Jennifer Jason Leigh in The Hateful Eight. Her performance here is just completely unhinged, and she's near unrecognizable. But her performance isn't just a one-note, you know, quote-unquote crazy woman performance. You know, there's something vulnerable and vengeful bubbling underneath the surface from the very first second you see her in the film, and throughout the entirety of The Hateful Eight. She goes through a full range of emotions. You know, you see her at her lowest low, and you see her really happy as well. But you believe that all of these emotions are coming from the same demented character, and she's someone who you equal parts don't like and love at the same time, and Jennifer Jason Leigh really pulls it off. And now we have the last two, who are also coincidentally the two actresses who I believe should have been nominated as leads. However, they're not the top two just because of that. I really do think if you look at these performances, they really do take the cake, because, you know, sometimes supporting performances can be better than a lead performance, but here we are. So at number 2, I'm going to put Rooney Mara in Carol, and her performance as Therese Belivet is just so brilliantly restrained. You know, she perfectly captures Therese's romantic feelings for Carol that she kind of has to still hide, and that she's not familiar with how to, you know, be with another woman. At the same time, she really captures how she's just not interested in this dude who's trying to court her. Her performance is one of tentatives. You know, it always feels like she's holding something back, and she wants to show more, but she doesn't know how. And she has a couple of scenes in this movie where she cries, and you've never felt more hurt watching someone else cry. You just want to, you know, hug her and tell her everything's gonna be fine. She's brilliant in this film. She's so emotionally affecting. But at number 1, the actress that I thought deserved the Best Supporting Actress Oscar was Alicia Vikander. Her performance in The Danish Girl, like the emotional gymnastics that she has to pull off in this role are unreal. Like, she starts out the movie like somewhat bubbly and mischievous, but then when her husband, played by Eddie Redmayne, decides to transition to become a woman, the pain she feels is just so profound, because she is losing like the love of her life, but she can't blame him because that's really what he wants, and without that change he wouldn't be happy, and so she's doing it for him as well, but she can't help but feel conflicted about it, and it's so complex, but she really manages to communicate that emotion to the audience really clearly. And I don't know if this is like a mild spoiler, but towards the end of the film, of course, she has a mix of joy and pride and sadness as well, because she is proud of her husband for following through with his decision, but she still has lost her husband. Her performance is so effective in The Danish Girl that a lot of people do suspect that the title The Danish Girl refers more to her than Eddie Redmayne, and I would not argue with that. As for my official prediction for who I thought was going to win this category, I also gave it to Alicia Vikander, and the Oscars also gave it to her. I think it would have been a lot easier for her to win if she was nominated for Ex Machina, but her performance in The Danish Girl is still just so raw and so real that, I didn't see any other alternative. Alright, so those are my thoughts on Best Supporting Actress. What do you guys think of this category? What do you think of the nominated actresses? Who do you think deserved to win? Who did you think was going to win? Whatever you think, whether you agree with me or not, please leave me a comment. Let's have a conversation.